Welcome everyone to our June sharing session. This session is a little bit different from the earlier ones we've done because this is just an open question and answer session. So whatever springs to mind, maybe you've sent some questions in if you weren't able to attend, and we're going to address those. So I'm going to keep an eye on any questions that are posted or that come in. And yeah, I think we'll kick things off with Deborah. I think you had something to start with.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. And just jump in if you have, if you want to chat as well. Yes, or put it in the chat box and we'll address it as we go along. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is about the reason that you have to have two copies at the examination for all scores. And as with any exam, if the music is not memorized, the examiner does need a copy. Our repertoire is own choice, and I say this all the time that with that for me comes uh, it's a privilege to be able to have own choice, open choice, choose from other conservatory repertoire books, anywhere to make a program that the children will love and really enjoy. But then also with that comes the responsibility of making sure that the examiner has an appropriate score so that they can also assess the how they have interpreted that particular edition, because they will vary historically from editor to editor, and we want to be able to give everyone the same assessment across the board. So without a score, that's a problem for examiners. We also really promote Canadian music. We're working on a new series. Our season series will be coming up very shortly, starting with 3 downloads for prep through level 2. And so we really make sure that we uphold all the copyrights, international Canadian copyrights. And so photocopies cannot be allowed in our sessions. CNCM is liable should that happen. And it just isn't something that we are prepared to put our examiners or our school in risk for that. If a student only has one copy, if there's only one copy available, then that is probably a piece that the student needs to memorize. But the examiner must have an original copy on their desk. They're not going to accept photocopies. And so just something we feel really strongly about. And on a legal basis, it's what we have to do. I want to comment on that or add something to that?
So if someone came into an exam, I mean, if there's 2 or 3 students from the same teacher, they can hand off the book as well, right?
Yeah, if
Right.
that needs to happen, yes,
Yeah.
because hopefully the student owns the copy.
Right.
And so sometimes it has to be shared. Sometimes the teacher has a loaner library, and most teachers would have 2 copies of that so they can manage this. So yeah, there's going to be sharing in that way for sure.
Yeah, for the second copy.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Now, did you just want to carry on with
Well, I
your
thought maybe
next
Kathy,
question?
I think, has brought some questions as well, so maybe we'll just trade off.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. I was asked recently that somebody had a student interested in a CNCM theory exam. So are there exam centers or how does this work?
Okay, so we do 3 times a year, there's a center. So February, May, and August. But you also can apply throughout the year and do individual exam sessions. So you can set your own schedule as well. And in those cases, we're looking for, Ruth, correct me if I'm wrong, but at least 6 weeks notice to make sure we have a paper available. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so the answer is yes, you can do it when the sessions happen, which are the first Saturday in February, May, and August, or individually with appropriate notice.
And she also wanted to know where the student had to go to take theory exam.
They can actually do them in their own teacher's studio. So they don't really have to travel. I mean, during COVID, they were doing it at home as well, but we like them to be with someone monitoring them. But it's pretty comfortable.
Mhm. Okay, your turn.
Okay, so a second thing that I'm asked often is about, so we have the two streams of performance exams. We have STAR performance, which is 4 pieces, and then we have the full performance exam, which is 8 pieces. But, and this happens, and it's really exciting for us. We have students who want to do more than the 4 pieces or more than the 8 pieces. And so we're asked, is that possible? And in fact, they may do more than 4 or 8 pieces. Generally, they only add one to it because they still need to fit the allotted time frame. And we're very open about what that is. So if the performance time is 20 minutes and they want to do another piece, they cannot exceed that time frame because there's still exams, they're still being assessed, so they have to finish within that time frame. But it does happen actually more than we even thought it would happen. And that's really rewarding for us in the sense that one of our goals by having 8 pieces, some at different levels, was to have children playing more pieces. That was our goal, to play more, play at different levels. And the fact that they want to do more than that is really exciting for us to watch because now we know they're out there searching for things they want to do and they want to include in their exam. So it's just a really fun feature for kids who want to be able to add more things.
So Debbie, maybe you could explain how that would be adjudicated.
So
Like,
what happens, yeah, the form doesn't allow for it, but so it's probably going to be on the back or down below on the bottom part of our form. But so each piece is marked on, so on a STAR performance, especially in the early grade, each of the 4 pieces are marked out of 15. And so a fifth piece would just be marked out of 15, and then that would be reassessed percentage-wise for the original total. So the 8 piece exams, each piece is worth 10 marks. So now instead of being out of 80, it will be out of 90, and then the percentage is reworked to be out of the total mark for performance. So they still get the same weight as the other pieces that they're doing. So yeah, good point. Thanks, Noreen.
One of my students asked me the other day, is she allowed to make a copy of a page for the facilitate the page turn?
So the answer is in that one, CNCM does allow one photocopy if they own the book for page turn. I believe Harbridge Wallace Publishing also still uses that same standard, is that you may make one copy for a page turn. Beyond that, you'd have to check with the publishers, and sometimes it comes down to, having to memorize a small portion so they can get that page turn in. But check with the publishers. Some of them have made statements on their websites that's something they can do. We can't say that other publishers will do it. Harbridge is, of course, our official publisher, so that's how we know that we can make that statement about them. But certainly the Northern Lights Publications, one copy, yes, yes.
Okay.
And we've had some questions. This is one that keeps repeating for us as well, is on transposition, both in the musicianship examination and in the popular stream, because they pre-prepare a transposition in the popular stream. In the musicianship, it's on site. The question is, do they play it in the home key before they play in the transposition? The answer is the expectation is that they will only play it in the new keys. Can I say 100% that it's never been asked in a home key? We don't know the situations that examiners are dealing with, and we're doing lots of examiner training where we hope our consistency is strengthening all of the time. And sometimes when you're with the child, you get the sense that they need to play it in the home key. So we don't know if it's been asked what what has been the situation with that. But the expectation is they will play only in the new keys. So I think another question that came up was about themed exams and the star performance. We openly say that in our 8-piece examination, these exams may be themed. We haven't made that same statement for our star performance because often they're used more with younger children and so on. But reality is, if they chose a theme and came in with a theme, that would be fine as well, as long as in those 4 pieces we're seeing strong contrast, a variety of things, tempos, keys, meters. And so sometimes it can be a little bit more limited with the theme, with that happening. So that would be the one big caution, but we would never tell a child that they can't have a theme in a star performance as well.
I have a little one that's doing a star performance, and she's little and she loves to sing, so she wants to sing all of her pieces. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think what should happen in that case, and this is something else that we've been asked, so I'll get to these two things together. It would be really nice if they could just play it first as a solo and then repeat it and sing.
Mm.
Just as some of them really little ones really want to have their teacher play the duet part because very often the pieces are coming from method books. So what we have suggested is the teacher can go and sit with them, have the child play their part as a solo, and then the teacher will join in the second time so that they can do that. Yes, we'd like to hear it as a solo. And you
Hmm.
know what? That would be a really good thing because we don't interrupt our kids when they're performing. And those pieces are really short. Or give us the
Yes.
examiner a little bit more time, actually, to,
Yeah.
to do
True.
some work on that. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
but yes, by all means, we're not going to discourage that. And of course, in the regular exams, the additional piece could be a vocal piece where they accompany themselves. So that's the really cool thing there. So, but
I
in
think sorry,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, I think there's value in that because that's another level of skill.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Now, does anyone who's attending have something they want to bring in?
Okay, I was going to ask something else then. Okay, we can choose repertoire from anywhere.
Correct?
So if we find it in a couple of different syllabi in different grades, can we just pick which grade we want them to play it in?
Yes, because if it was challenged by the examiner, we would just say to you, we need to, can you tell us where you have seen this as a specific grade? I mean, we have those popular kids pieces. I mean, I think kids maybe don't know them as well these days, but some of the Boris Berlin things got really popular, like Monkeys in the Tree and some things like that, that we all know where they fit. But yeah, they get shifted around by conservatories as well. So we recognize that, and we recognize that there are pieces on every grade 5 list that you could argue is probably a grade 6. So some of it is what it's surrounded by as well before it would be a problem. And if it was challenged, for sure, we would be coming back to the teacher and saying, can you just tell us where this one, where you found it? And if you're concerned about it, you could mention that to the examiner as well. Because there is a lot of interaction between our teachers, of course, and our examiners because the audience is there, the parents are there. We're talking and dealing with the children one-on-one. So sometimes I'm saying to teachers, if you're concerned about something, but you know that um, it's fine, but you're concerned that does that examiner know that? You can just share that information with them um, to let them know. But yeah, I mean, Fleur Elise is a perfect example. I don't think it ever was a grade 6. sometimes, I don't know if it was a grade 9, just you get to
Mhm.
the B section, right? And who can handle it appropriately. So we know that these things have been up and down, and it's been a personal or subjective decision. So we have to recognize that and be prepared to deal with that as well. So Ruth, do you have anything that you can think of that's come into the office recently with questions that we might want to
Yeah, well,
address?
something that just occurred to me as we we're going through these. So what about if a teacher has made changes to a piece to accommodate things like hand size? Or so how much change are they able to do with that? Does it have to be shown on the score when they come to the exam? Can they even do that?
So yeah, it depends on, and the hand size comes into play. That's a really good question in a couple of different ways. So in repertoire, we would expect it to be marked on the score. But the other part of that is that again, the examiner should be told, and we can hopefully share that information with forms and things that go out. But the examiner should be told as well that this student has really small hands, so we've made a few adjustments and you'll see them marked in the score. So that should happen. Now, if it's a complete rewriting of things in the score, then we need to see that, and we need to see where that came from, because especially if it's not public domain, we would need to see that. Now, in traditional pieces, that happens, I think, sometimes a little bit more often in some of the more popular pieces as well, where there might be some rewriting because of the length and that sort of thing. In traditional pieces, you would mark it on the score. Of course, smaller hands can roll a chord where they might not play it as a block chord, or roll a seventh where they might not be able to stretch to play it as a harmonic interval. Same is true with musicianship. The examiner needs to know whether that grade 8 student can comfortably do 4-note chord solid, or can do 4-note chord solid slowly and could be asked some. So our examiners are told that they need to accommodate that without formulating an opinion or sharing an opinion that, oh, well, your hand doesn't look that small, or my hand is that small. But we try not to do that. We will accommodate that. A heads up is really important. And then the examiner can adapt quite quickly with those things. Like I said, if it's a little bit of rearranging or yeah, well, it's the same thing, right? Rearranging a piece, we would need to see that so it still meets the level of degree of difficulty. Again, there's a lot of graded pieces historically, so it shouldn't be happening in those pieces. It's how they accommodated them within it. Does
Right,
anyone
so
else?
the accommodation is about what the student needs to be
Yes.
successful, not to accommodate for a lack of preparation, for example.
Exactly. Exactly. Because what could happen, for example, at grade 8, where they're starting solid 4-note chords, if the hand is really tiny, but they're able to do some of the work, they've done some work to work on stretching and that sort of thing, they may be asked to play, a very comfortable one, and they can do it slowly. Well, that speed will not be the issue with that in that case. If they can't do those, then we would probably ask them to do some triads for us, to show that they've worked on some sort of blocked chord. So that's why a heads up is really helpful, because we can also coach the teacher as to how to approach it. And I think most teachers are not trying to not have the student do this. They worked with the child. They know what's stressing the arm and the hand, and we certainly don't want to cause any damage at those levels. So it really is what they can manage.
Well, something else came up in my mind a minute ago, but I don't know what it was. So if somebody else had a question still on their list.
Anyone else with a question? I want to just maybe address the use of the Northern Lights publications. So both of our performance exams, the STAR performance and the full performance, require one piece from the Northern Lights publications, which are expanding all of the time. So no longer is it just from the Northern Lights books that we created initially, but from any of our publications. So it can be Making Tracks, it can be any of the sheet music that we've produced. And now, of course, our new collection of seasons coming out, which will be digital downloads, and they'll be available on Harbridge website very soon, month of June, they will be available. And so those all qualify, all of our publications qualify into that category. The only exam where performance is involved is the popular stream of the Music for Everyone. And I just want to remind you that you do not have to do a CNCM or Northern Lights publication piece. You still have to do a Canadian piece, but it's the one time that you can do a Canadian piece that doesn't have to be Northern Lights. You can have those on your other pieces. You just still have to have the one Northern Lights piece in there. Sometimes people find themselves in a bit of a jam and they might have forgotten that they needed a Northern Lights piece, and what could we do? And, sort of last minute. Well, remember that in an 8-piece program, that for something that you could learn quickly, the encore can be 2 grades below. So you could still have your Northern Lights piece there, and that will qualify. You can add an extra piece, as we talked about. It would have to be at grade level. If you're adding it, we still would expect it to be at grade level. The additional piece on the 8-piece examination can be 1 grade lower. So that would be one that you could also learn fairly quickly. Or if you have someone to play one of the duets for the additional piece, you could also do that if you're finding yourself in a position like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that, right? That would be something that you could do to help with that situation. We're not budging on that. We really feel strongly about promoting the Canadian writers who supported us, all Canadian writers, in fact, but Canadian writers who've taken the time to contribute to our books and provided us with all of this great music. So we want to be sure that we're encouraging that Canadian music, Canadian content, Canadian teaching, Canadian community, great country. We want to really support that, especially today. Noreen, were you going to add something?
Well, I was, back when you were talking a few minutes ago about questions that come in. Sometimes at an exam, candidates have questioned what pitch do they have to sing their scales at when they're singing their solfege, or when they're doing a sing back, can they change to an octave displacement higher or lower according to the voice? We see this more with male students, so I was just thinking that might be a good thing to mention too.
Right, and of course they can do that. And even an examiner they're expected to check the range, the voice range, because we're not testing the voice. We're trying to get the student to use their voice to internalize sound and to be able to, see with the ear and hear with the eye when they're trying to reproduce this. So they can even transpose what they're giving the student if that needs to help. But definitely the student, if they're given a sight singing piece, when they're giving their little exercise, they can drop it an octave. They can move it up an octave if they want. That's no problem at all, because we're really wanting them to be comfortable and to be using the voice is what this is all about. So yes,
Yeah.
good point. And remember, I can't say that enough, that in our vocalization sessions or sections, it is all about getting them just to use the voice more than anything else. Okay. so if anyone else has a question, let us know. Otherwise, I think we've covered a lot that have come in recently and repeating questions that we get. And so our sharing sessions will be suspended for July and August, and we'll let you know. Usually do the first week in the month, so not sure whether we'll be back early September. Maybe we'll wait till October. We'll give you lots of notice as to when we're starting back up in the fall.
Yeah, and I'll post this video again, and I'm hoping I might even get a summary document of the questions and answers to go out with it.
Yeah, that would be great.
We'll see. It might not happen just right away, but I'll see if I can't get that summarized.
Excellent. Thank you, Ruth.
Good. Yeah, so we've covered a lot of territory in the last several months. So just everyone remember that you can always go back to those videos and review them. You can review parts of them, you can skip through, and just as a refresher or to think, oh yeah, what was said about that? So our hope is that it is a continuing resource that you can turn to. And but as always, you can always email me at the office, cncmoffice@gmail.com, with any questions you have, and I'll chase down the answers for you. So, yeah, I think that's all we have, unless Noreen, did you have something else?
Not pertinent to this. I just
Okay.
had a wonderful idea, but you might be aware of this as far as recording the conversation so you can go back and formulate a document. AI will actually do a recording, and you maybe know this, and then it captures the whole conversation, and then you can revisit it and make your notes from it.
Wouldn't that be nice? I've
Well,
seen.
I've been in a meeting that had it, so I know
Oh, okay.
it works.
Good. Well, I haven't used it, but I've seen that it's available, and I thought, oh yeah. I'll get to that sometime. So
Yeah.
yes, it might be worth looking at. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
So that may be helpful to others that are tuning in.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks everyone for riding along with us and sending us your questions. And as I say, reach out whenever you have a question and we'll do what we can to help you out. Other than that, have a great day, have a great summer, and we'll be back in the fall.
Bye, everyone.